29th is the day France commemorates the abolition of slavery. The country is the only one in the world which has a dedicated day to remember the horrors of the past. Today's ceremony taking place at the Luxembourg Gardens here in Paris. There you see the French President Emmanuel Macron arriving slowly. Now we can go across to France 24's James Andre, who is covering the event for us. James, good afternoon. What's on the agenda today?
Good afternoon. Now, one thing that's important to note with this ceremony is that there are many children, 400 youths that are gathered here in order to take part in this ceremony, a ceremony in which the French president will not speak. And that is a clear decision that was made by the president himself to leave all the space to these youth who have been invited here. Some have come from as far as Guadeloupe and other islands that are part of France overseas. And indeed, when it comes to the program, well, there will be first a song by Christian Salem, which is a Maloya. That is a traditional style of song from La Réunion that is inspired by the African roots of slaves who used to sing these songs back in the days of slavery. Also, there will be a series of readings by children from various schools across France that took part in a project called The Flame of Equality. They were invited by the French Education Ministry to create text, to create all types of works in order to remember slavery, remember slave trade, and in order, some of the best, of course, the ones that were selected will be read here before the French president. Also, there will be the reading of a poem, Zumbi, and also the reading of an extract of a book called A Woman Named Solitude. Now, this is a book that is Solitude is specifically being celebrated this year, because marks this year, 2022, marks the 220th year, of the reinstatement of slavery in Guadeloupe. And indeed, this woman, Solitude, took an active part in fighting the reinstatement of indeed slavery on the island, and that cost her her life. She was indeed sentenced to death at the time she was pregnant. Her sentence was suspended until her baby was born. The baby was the property of her owner. Indeed, she was a slave, and she was indeed executed on that day. Now, a statue of Solitude is going to be inaugurated here in France today. And then, indeed, there will be one more Maloya song before this ceremony comes to an end today around 5.
And James, this ceremony is clearly France's effort to fix its mistakes, its horrors of the past.
Yes, absolutely. Well, in 2001, France voted a law called the Taubira Law, named after the member of parliament from Guyana who brought this law before parliament, and indeed a law that states that slavery is a crime against humanity, and indeed asking the French education system to indeed give slavery and slave trade all its space, all its right place in French history, by indeed talking about it in class, educating the younger generations. And this, well, what we are seeing here in 2022 is the result, in a sense, of this law. The first ceremony of this type took place in 2006. It is the 17th edition, and indeed France is the only country in the world back in 2001 to take a law like this, clearly stating that slavery was a crime against humanity. And of course, these ceremonies are very important in order to make sure these crimes are remembered.
James, thank you very much for that. James Andre reporting there for us.